Hello guys, this is your friend from ninjavibeZ and we are back with a new fanfic, which is what if Naruto Uzumaki traveled back after the Shinobi War and built the ultimate multiverse harem with Hinata, Sakura, Tsunade, Karen, Gurren, Mei, female Haku, Tamari, Kuretsuchi, Samui and Kurama Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like. And now let's start the fanfic. Sakura-chan H. Hinata-chan. Nar started shakily. He was lying on his back in the middle of a large crater in what used to be a lush forest with Sakura and Hinata at his side. They were all that was left of the allied shinobi forces. Tobi and his army of reincarnated ninja and Zetsu clones had mere hours ago overpowered them and wiped most of them out. Nar, don't talk. Save your energy, Sakura said as she concentrated on healing the massive hole in his chest. Said hole was the result of a Chidori attack from Sasaki, whose dead body was lying a few feet away. You have to get out of here, he said meekly while trying to push them away. He less than greater than LLB here in any say second. We're less than greater than not leaving you, Naruto, Hinata stated as she bandaged his broken leg. Just as she finished, she and Sakura were flung high into the air by an invisible force before slamming back down. You should have listened to him, Tobi stated as he walked closer. Two of his remaining gentry paths followed behind him. He held his hand out, and for Hinata and Sakura, it suddenly felt like the entire world was being pushed down on them. Cracks formed across the ground as they were pushed into the earth with tremendous force. And Naruto Sakura coughed out. The pressure was breaking bones and her internal organs were about to explode, but she still found the energy to grab onto his right hand. I love you, Naruto, Hinata said through the pain, and she grabbed his left hand. And then the pressure just vanished like it was never there. Both girls were panting, but even that proved difficult as their lungs had almost burst. Sakura knew straight away that they would die in a few hours without treatment due to the immense amount of stress Tobi had put on their vital organs. I think I'll send your friends to another dimension so you can watch them die as the QB is extracted from you, he said manically as he grabbed onto Hinata's and Sakura's arms. Just as Tobi was about to send his friends to a different dimension, Naruto was pulled into a very familiar sewer. Standing in front of him, well behind a cage, was the QB. Nokutsum, what do you want? The blonde asked. I don't want that man to control me again, nor do I want to become part of the Jubi again, the fox stated. I can't stop him. He's going to kill Hinata-chan and Sakura-chan, then rip you out of me. He shouted angrily. I know a jutsu that will send you and your two friends back in time by 5 hours. That should be enough time to prepare for the invasion of Zetsu and your battle with him. If you pull it off, you precious people, and more importantly, I will be safe. What do I have to do? He asked. His voice was filled with hope. You'll have to loosen your seal a little so you can access more of my chakra. Otherwise, with the amount of chakra you have right now, you will die. After that, simply let my chakra travel throughout your body, and then you grab onto your friends, and I'll do the rest. You will wake up 5 hours ago with knowledge of what happened. However, the other two may forget about what happened and won't remember unless you trigger a memory, such as reminding the Hyuga of her cousin's death. All right, I got it, Nar said as he walked towards the Tori seal. He loosened the seal a bit and a stream of red chakra flowed out towards Nar. The blonde exited his subconscious and returned to the real world. He instantly grabbed Hinata and Sakura, then yanked them out of Toba's grasp. Just as Kyuubi activated the space-time jutsu, Tobi activated his own in a desperate attempt to prevent the Gentriki escaping him. Q.B. He didn't say anything about getting a massive headache. Nar thought as he woke up. However, As he was getting up, he realized he hadn't been sleeping in a tent in a war zone. He had been sleeping in his apartment. He got out of bed and realized 3 things. 1. His apartment was extremely messy. 2. He was way shorter. And 3. Was that this was the day after the Mizuki incident, if the calendar was correct. Stupid fox must have messed up, Nar said out loud to himself. Oh well, at least this gives me more time to get stronger and possibly even save Sasuke. Later at the academy, Naruto had arrived a few minutes before team assignment and took a seat next to Hinata, not wanting a repeat of what happened the first time and wanting to sit next to his friend. Hi, Hinata-chan, Nar said in his usual fashion loudly. The heiress's face turned bright red at the fact he called her Chan and he was sitting next to her. The only thing keeping her from fainting was the embarrassment of possibly ending up lying on top of him. Hi, Naruto-kun, she replied softly. She must not remember what happened, so she's back to her old self, Nar thought after hearing her stutter. I have to get her to remember. Hey, Hinata-chan, I have to tell you something important. Nar said maybe he wants to tell me he loves me. She thought while even more blood rushed to her face. What is it? Why you want to tell me Naruto-king? She asked timidly. He leaned forward so his mouth was only inches from her ear. They were so close she could feel his body heat. She was on the verge of fainting but desperately needed to hear what he has to tell her. Hinata-chan, your cousin Nei was killed in front of you, he whispered. Her face suddenly turned from bright red to pale white. Her eyes widened and tears started to form in the corners of her eyes. She remembered the sight of Neji's dead and mangled body. And Nar could see she remembered, but she hadn't remembered everything yet, and he needed to push a bit more, even though he didn't want to hurt her like this. So was your sister, Hanabi, and your father, Hiashi. Your entire clan was wiped out in front of you by an army of Zetsu clones. I was all she managed to say before she started crying into her hands. Nar was about to comfort her, but he was pulled away from the AYS by his soon-to-be teammate Sakura, who was holding him by his collar. What did you say to her, you jerk? She demanded rather than asked. Nar looked around the room and could see he had gained the attention of the entire class. All of them seemed ready to hurt him if he said the wrong thing. Sakura-san. It's less than greater than fine, Hinata said, even though she still had tears streaming down her face. Naruto-kun just told me something I needed to hear. Are you sure you're okay? Hinata. Sakura asked, not noticing the Aras's lack of a stutter. Don't worry, he didn't hurt me in any way, she said. The pinkett let go of her grip around the blonde's collar and walked back to her seat next to Sasaki only to find Ino had stolen it. All right class, it's time for team assignments, Iruka announced as entered the room. The genin that had been watching Naruto turned their attention to Iruka as he went through the teams. Team 7 has Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata, Hyuga, and Sakura Haruno. Team 8 is Sasaki Uchiha, Ka Inuzuka, and Shino Arame. Team 9 is still active. And lastly, Team 10 consists of Enino Yamanaka, Choji Akamaiki, and Shikamaru Nara. Your new Jonin Sensei will be here shortly. Until then, please stay here. The only thing left to say is congratulations and good luck in your ninja careers. Thank you, Iruka Sensei. Most of the class said as their former teacher exited the classroom. Naruto-kun, how did we go back in time? Hinata asked quietly after every other team had left and Sakura was sitting as far away from them as possible. Huey used a jutsu to send us back in time, but we were only supposed to back 5 hours. I guess the reason we went back by nearly 4 years is because the fox messed it up, he answered. Okay, but how did I end up on the same team as you and Sakura-san? Hinata asked. I went to see Gigi this morning about team arrangements and managed to convince him to put us on the same team, he said while remembering the old man trying to refuse his sexy jutsu. Where the hell is our sensei? I could be talking to Sasaki _ right now, but I have to wait. Sakura shouted after they reached the half-hour waiting point. Naruto knew that Kakashi still wouldn't show up for another 2.5 hours. And Sakura's rant made him realize something. If he didn't get her to remember her past, future life now, he might not get another chance until Wave. Hey, Sakura-chan, I have something to ask you, Nar said happily. It better not be for another date, she threatened coldly. I was just wondering if you remembered when Sasaki tried to kill you, he asked casually. Sakura stared at him before growing angry at his lie about her. Sasaki _ she moved to hit him but froze when she remembered the event clearly. She remembered trying to kill Sasaki after his battle with Danzo, but she froze, and just as he tried killing her, Naruto saved her with Kakashi arriving soon after. All the events that led up to that moment exploded into her mind as well as everything that happened after. Sakura-chan, are you okay? Nar asked in a panic. The pink kid had fallen to the floor unconscious. I'm sure she's fine, Naruto-kun. It was probably just the strain of all those memories, Hinata said calmly. I'm sure she'll come around soon. Okay, but wait, if that's the case, why didn't you faint? I don't know, she replied, causing the blonde to face fault. By the way, Naruto-kun, why did you put us all on the same team? Well, I thought we could help each other get our strengths back. Plus, Sasuke can't learn that Chidori now, so if he decides to leave the village again, he'll be easier to capture. That's pretty smart of you, Naruto _ Hinata said happily. Thanks, he replied. On my head, Sakura grumbled as she slowly got up. It feels like the time I tried to outdrink Sensei. Sakura-chan, you're finally awake. Nar announced happily. Yeah, Nar _ how did we end up back in time? She asked. The blonde sighed before explaining how they were sent back in time by Q, and what he did to get them on the same team. At the end of it, Sakura simply stood up and walked to the closest wall. Sakura-chan, what are you doing? Nar asked, confused by her sudden behavior. We know Kakashi-sensei won't less than greater than be here for about 2 hours and my chakra reserves are back to nothing, so I was going to get a head start on my training, she explained before beginning to walk up the wall using chakra. Good point, Nar and Hinata said before both of them walked over to join Sakura in training. 2 hours later, Kakashi Hideki was expecting to walk in on an empty room or 3 angry or at least annoyed genin. But instead, he arrived at the sight of his 3 genin students performing the tree walking exercise. They didn't seem to notice him because they continued repeating the exercise. This is interesting, he said aloofly, causing his students to turn their attention to him. Instead of shouting at him for being late, they simply stared at him, expecting him to finish his statement. It's not every day you see newly graduated genin practicing this exercise. Gi once told me about it, and I told these 2 how to do it, Naruto lied to avoid suspicion. Okay, but why are you practicing now? Well, we figured you'd be late after the first half hour, so we decided to train in the meantime, Sakura said. You didn't have any trouble, did you? The copy nin asked, hoping he could pass these guys before the actual test. I had trouble at first because I couldn't control my chakra properly. So, Sakura-chan and Hinata-chan helped me out because they got it perfect the first time. Naruto lied again, although, he did find his chakra control was back to where it had been at this point. Almost non-existent. All right, then, why don't we introduce ourselves? He asked. I'll go first. My name is Kakashi Hatake. My likes are none of your concern. My dislikes I don't feel like telling you. My hobbies I don't really have any. And my dream I've never really thought about it. You next, Pinky. My name's Sakura Haruno. My likes are none of your concern. My dislikes I don't feel like telling you. My hobbies I don't really have any. In my dream, I've never really thought about it. My name's Hinata Haga. My likes are none of your concern. My dislikes, I don't feel like telling you. My hobbies, I don't really have any. In my dream, I've never really thought about it. And my name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are none of your concern. My dislikes, I don't feel like telling you. My hobbies, I don't really have any. In my dream, I've never really thought about it. He finished, causing Kakashi to sweat drop at his team's lame introductions. Did I really sound that lame? He questioned as scanned over his genin. Oh well, so far they've shown excellent teamwork and I guess I could pass them on what I've seen so far. Well, now that introductions are over, why don't you guys take the day off and tomorrow meet me at the third training ground at 6 o'clock in the morning for missions? He said before disappearing in a puff of smoke. It has been a month since Team 7 started going on missions and they followed the same routine every day. Nar, Sakura, and Hinata would show up at Training Ground 3 at 6 o'clock in the morning, and those three would practice the water walking and tree walking exercises as well as their own personal jutsu. Then Kakashi would show up around noon, and they'd go on dank missions for a few hours before doing some training in teamwork and then go home. Nar had managed to relearn the Rinnegan in half the time it took originally thanks to his clones and improved chakra control. He had also managed to relearn the giant Rinnegan, but he could only use it twice a day due to the massive amount of chakra it consumed, and the QB still hadn't awoken from its slumber yet. He had also been trying to master his wind affinity again, but it was still slow progress. Sakura had regained her medical enjutsu and her chakra-enhanced taijutsu, but both weren't anywhere near as powerful as they had been, and they caused her to grow tired quickly because of her low reserves. And Hinata had been trying to relearn her style of gentle fist attacks, but they weren't as powerful because of her lower chakra reserves, and this caused her to grow tired quickly if she only used the more powerful attacks. However, all three of them kept their training secret. Otherwise, they would start getting unwanted questions. Currently, Nar was arguing with the Hokage about getting a more challenging mission rather than the simple D-rank missions they had been receiving. They had just captured Tora again, and they were itching to do the wave mission. Come on, can't you give us a C-rank mission? Nar asked. Nar, you've only been a genin for a month. Trust me when I say you're not yet experienced enough, Aruruka said. How are we going to get any experience by doing chores? The blonde half shouted, half asked Nar. Every day we receive requests from babysitting to assassination and then we the Hokage started before being cut off. And then you rank them a D rank and only the ninja with enough experience can take those missions. Nar said Jonin can take any rank mission. Chunin can go on BD rank ones and Genin can go on C or D rank missions. Correct. But only experienced Genin can go on C rank missions. His replied, but Lord Hokage, we already have a month of experience, Sakura said. Plus, we have nearly 4 years worth of experience on top of that. What about you, Hinata? You've been quiet throughout this entire argument. The old man asked. I think we could handle a C rank mission, she answered. And you, Kakashi, I think we could easily complete a C rank mission. Lord Hokage, the Jonin answered. All right then, send in the client, Hazen said. These BRZ are supposed to protect me. Tuna asked skeptically as he walked into the room. Well, what do you expect when you pay for AC rank? Nar countered. Don't worry. I'm a Jonin, so you'll be safe if these guys can't handle any bandits we come across, which I doubt, Kakashi said to reassure their client. So, when are we leaving? Hinata asked. We less than greater than LL leave in an hour. Pack enough things for a month, then meet at the main gate, and don't be late. You can't exactly talk about being late. Sensei, Sakura stated while heading back to her home to pack. Nar and Hinata followed while Suna was thinking about telling the truth about the perils that they may encounter on the mission. 2 hours later, the group of 4 ninja and 1 bridge builder had been walking for an hour towards the land of waves. Nar and Sakura were on edge, though they didn't show it because knew that their encounter with the demon brothers would happen soon while Hinata was discreetly looking out for the puddle. Kakashi was walking with Suna and talking about how the ranking system worked in the ninja world, but did notice that his students were on their toes. He quickly summed it up to this being the first time they were outside of the village and they were being overly cautious. He noticed a puddle up ahead and immediately realized it was a disguise, but he'd have to wait to see who their target was. As the Konoha group passed Go and his twin, Mizu emerged from the puddle. Mizu threw his brother at the group and the twins managed to ensnare Kakashi in their shuriken chain. Do it! Go shouted as he and his twin yanked the chain in opposite directions, slicing the Jonin into pieces. Kakashi-sensei Hinata shouted out of shock. You're next, Mizu said as he and his brother moved into finish of Naruto. The blonde ducked underneath the chain and proceeded to sweep the missing nin's legs. Both of them jumped away, but while they were in the air, Hinata threw 3 kunai at their chain, embedding it in a tree behind them. The demon brothers released the chain and charged forwards, one going after Naruto and the other going for Suna. As Mizu moved to kill the bridge builder, Sakura moved in front of him. However, before he could get in range, he was sent flying right after his brother had been thrown into him by the blonde. Don't ever attack Sakura-chan or Hinata-chan again if you value your lives, Naruto stated while glaring at the demon brothers. Let's finish of that brat, Go said. But before he could get up to attack, he slumped to the floor unconscious with Mizu soon doing the same. Standing behind them was Kakashi. How are you? Suna began to ask before looking over to the shredded pieces of the man in front of him only to see a shredded log. Kakashi-sensei used the replacement jutsu. Naruto clarified. Good work, guys. The Jonin praised while tying the 2 chunin to a tree. I'm glad your teamwork is as good as it is or I'd have had to step in sooner. These guys use poison in their clawed gauntlets. So, have any of you gotten scratched? Nope, Sakura said after examining herself. I don't, Hinata said after doing the same. I go a small scratch, Nar said, showing the shallow cut on the back of hand. He got it as he threw Gozu at his brother. Guess some things have to stay the same. With that small a dose of poison, you won't die, but you could get seriously sick, so we need to remove it as soon as possible. Kakashi said as he approached. Kakashi-sensei, I know some medical enjutsu, Sakura said. Sakura, please try to remove the poison, he said before turning to Suna. Suna, we need to have a talk. What are you talking about? The bridge builder asked. Those 2 were disguised quite badly as a puddle. I could have taken them out straight away, but I needed to learn who their target was. Whether it was ninja attacking ninja or they were after something. From what I observed, they were after you. I don't care what your reasons are, but lying to us was a bad idea. If we knew we'd encounter ninja, this would be a B rank mission at least. Please, you have to understand the land of waves is under the control of a man named God and he's made the country poor and I could only afford to pay for AC rank. Suna begged God as in the shipping company. Nar suddenly asked while Sakura finished healing his hand. That's only a front. Secretly, He's a drug dealer and owns a smuggling company. The bridge builder said he came to the land of waves a year ago and he took control of the shipping routes and cut off free imports and exports. But my bridge will change that. Once the bridge is complete, we'll be able to freely deal with the mainland and bring an end to God's tyranny. Well, then we'd better get to the land of waves quickly so you can finish the bridge. Hinata said. Hinata's right. Instead of waiting around here, we should get moving. Sakura exclaimed. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't help people so desperate. Nar shouted. Looks like a unanimous decision, Kakashi said with an eye smile. Thank you, Tuzuna said with tears streaming down his face. Come on, you can't go soft on us, old man, Nar said while smiling. We less than greater than LL leave these two here for someone to pick up, Kakashi said while glancing at the unconscious forms of the demon brothers. All right, let's go, Nar shouted before the group continued their journey to the land of waves. Unknown location. What do you mean they were defeated? A short businessman shouted at a shirtless man with a giant sword. I thought you guys were professional assassins. That's why I hired you. Stop whining. The missing nin stated before drawing his massive sword and holding it inches away from God's neck. Next time I'll go myself. You sure about that? Apparently Suna's hired a high-level ninja to guard him and they'll be expecting more. It'll take someone with advanced skills, and who do you think you're dealing with? I am Zabuza Mamochi, demon of the hidden mist. Nar kept scanning his surroundings but couldn't see much due to the thick fog surrounding the boat. He could barely see the giant bridge they were traveling along. As he looked up, he began reminiscing about what happened the first time he was on this mission. The two fights with Zabuza, the talk with Haku, watching Zabuza destroy Gato and scaring off his army of thugs on the bridge, and finally the both of them dying. If they hadn't worked for that piece of trash, they'd probably have lived, he thought as he looked at the bridge. That's when it hit him. Why did Zabuza and Haku work for the gangster? They were probably being paid a lot judging from the way God acted. But what were their intentions for the profit? They didn't seem like the kind of people who want to get so rich they never have lift a finger again. And he doubted they would give it away to poor people. So, what were they going to do with it? Kakashi had said that Zabuza had once tried to kill the Mizukage, but did that mean that he was going to use the money to try again? We're getting close, the boatman said, bringing Naruto out of his thoughts. We're lucky we haven't been spotted so far. Nice going, Tuna said. The boat entered the tunnel and emerged into the open moments later. The boatman steered the boat to a nearby pier where Suna and his bodyguards got off. Thank you for taking such a risk. Just be careful, the boatman said, before switching the engine on and departing. Take me to my home in one piece, the bridge builder said. The ninja nodded, and they started the journey to Suna's home. Half an hour later, the group was now walking through a forest. Kakashi was walking along lazily. Sakura and Hinata were watching out for threats and Naruto was pondering on his thoughts about Haku and Zabuza. Sakura sped up a little so she was standing next to Nar. We're near where Zabuza attacked us. She whispered. He nodded and started looking for the missing nin. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bush rustle ever so slightly. Over there, he shouted while throwing a canny at the bush. He went over to check only to see a white rabbit. You little brat, you scared me. Suna shouted angrily. Damn, I forgot about the rabbit. Nar thought as he went to check on it. Everyone get down. Kakashi suddenly shouted. Everyone dropped to the floor just as a giant sword flew over their heads and embedded itself deeply into a tree. Out of said tree dropped a man with no eyebrows that landed on the hilt of the sword. Hand over the bridge builder, he said. Zabuza Mimochi. If you're going to be our opponent, I'll need this. Kakashi said as he moved his hand up to his headband. He lifted it up to his forehead, revealing his Sharingan eye. So, if I want the bridge builder, I have to go through you. Copy ninja, Zabuza stated rather than asked. Slowly, a veil of mist started to surround the area and became thicker with each passing moment. Zabuza yanked his sword out of the tree and disappeared into the mist. He less than greater than LL come after me first, Kakashi announced. Get in the Manji formation. Okay, the three genin said as they quickly got into position. Hinata activated her Byakugan and immediately saw the chakra signatures of everyone within the area. She was surprised to see Zabuza about to jump into the middle of their formation. But just as he was about to jump, Hinata threw a kunai into the missing nin's chest. But instead of blood, water flowed from the pen wound. Zabuza exploded into water, revealing itself to be a water clone. Kakashi-sensei, he's behind you. Hinata shouted. The Jonin turned just as Zabuza brought down his sword and sliced clean through him. However, Kakashi exploded into water. Don't move, the real Kakashi said as he appeared behind Zabuza with a kunai to his neck. So while the Hyuga took out my first clone, you copied my water clone jutsu and had it stand out in the open while you hid in the mist, the ex-mist ninja said. Zabuza, wait, Nar suddenly shouted. Normally Zabuza wouldn't listen to a brat, but the urgency in his voice made him stop. What do you want, brat? He asked. I can't figure out why you work for a guy like God. He said, he's obviously paying you a lot, but what are you going to do with the money? A few years ago, a war started in Kiri between those with Kakei Genk and those without, he started. People in that village have always feared Kakei Genk until eventually there was mass genocide. The rebellion is trying to regain control of Kiri so that it will put an end to that. I'm going to use the money to recruit help from other hidden villages for the rebellion. But you don't have to work for a thug like God, Nar said adamantly. If you went to Kona, you could ask old man Hokage for help. A missing nin like me would be killed before I even see the gates. Then let us complete this mission and then you can return to Konoha with us, Sakura said, already catching on to what Naruto was trying to do. If you come with us, you'd be safe. Unfortunately, that isn't a risk I can take. If he denies my request for help, it would have been a waste of time and I'd probably lose my life. I'm sure if you explain to him what's happened, he'd be able to send aid, Kakashi said. And if he doesn't, I'll personally make sure you get out of the land of fire without a scratch. All right, I'll agree to your offer, Zabuza said after thinking about it for a few minutes. Kakashi placed his kunai back in his pouch and covered his sharing while Zabuza returned the sword to his back. I should let you know I have an apprentice of sorts that will want to come with us to Konoha. Don't worry, I'm sure both of you will be fine. Kakashi said to Zuna, how long will it finish for you to finish the bridge? About a month with the amount of workers that are brave enough to finish construction, the master bridge builder said. Is there any way we can speed it up? Zabuza asked. If you can get a few hundred workers and work near constantly, we could finish it by next week. I think I can help with that, Nar said while smirking. What's so special about you, brat? I thought you'd say that multi-shadow clone jutsu. The blonde shouted. The area was suddenly filled with hundreds of blondes wearing orange. Does that answer your question? Impressive, Suna stated with wide eyes while Zabuza did the same. Nar dispelled the clones and turned to his sensei. If you're done showing off, Kakashi said before turning to the mist nin. Zabuza, you said you had an apprentice. Where are they exactly? Haku, come out here now. The eyebrowless man commanded. In a swirl of leaves, a person dressed in tracker nin clothes appeared. Haku, we are going to help protect these Konoha nin for the remainder of their mission and then we will go to Konoha to plead for aid in the bloodline war. Understood. The now identified Haku said, with a young feminine voice. Judging from their voice and body, she's a girl around Naruto's age. Kakashi thought, hey, are there going to be any more people after me? Tuna asked, cutting off Kakashi's thoughts. Gato hired me and a small army of thugs, but they shouldn't be any trouble, Zabuza answered. I'd say with me and Kakashi protecting you, you're safe as God's money. Good. My home's a little further down the road, he said before walking forward with the ninja behind him. Upon arriving at Suna's house, the ninja were introduced to his daughter, Tsunami, and his grandson, Inari. Suna, Kakashi, and Zabuza started making plans for the bridge while Tsunami and Haku went to buy food in the local town in Rewrote. Sakura and Hinata went into the woods to train. Narune Mi and Hinata have been talking recently. Sakura suddenly said after about 2 hours of training about what? Nar asked about our relationship with you. Hinata said with a slight blush on her face since she confessed to him during Pain's attack. She blushed, and stuttered a lot less around the blonde. We both want to date you, but we don't want to hurt each other. So, we decided that if you want to, you could date both of us. But wouldn't that be weird for you guys? Nar asked. Well, after everything we've been through together, we didn't think something like sharing you would be so difficult, Sakura said. And besides, I once heard Sensei say you would have to take part in the Clan Restoration Act because you were the last person to carry Namikaze Uzumaki and after herself, Senju blood, but I don't know if she was serious or not because she had been drinking like a fish for 5 hours before she said that. Well, I'm okay with it as long as you girls are as well, Nar replied while smiling. After that, Hinata gave him a deep kiss. And then Sakura did the same. I think we should head back now. What took you guys so long to get back? Kakashi asked his students as they entered the house. I hope you weren't doing anything you'd find in my Aika. Aika, shut up. We were just training like we do when we're waiting for you to show up. Sakura shouted while Naruto and Hinata were in the background with bright red faces. If you say so, Kakashi said before turning back to his book with a perverted giggle. Food's ready, Tsunami called from the kitchen. Kakashi put his book away and entered the kitchen with his students to see Suna. Zabuza and Haku already seated while Tsunami was setting out dishes. Sakura sat at the end of the table with Naruto to her right and Hinata between Naruto and Haku. So, what training did you guys do out in the woods? Kakashi asked. I was practicing the gentle fist, Hinata said. I was sparring against Sakura-chan, Naruto and Sakura said at the same time. What were the conditions? Zabuza asked. All out in taijutsu only, the blonde said. A bit boring, isn't it? Well, we can't have a spar in anything else, Sakura explained. I only know medical enjutsu and some genjutsu. Whereas Naruto knows a lot of enjutsu, but no genjutsu and has very poor taijutsu. That seems to be a deep assessment of Naruto's skills. Sakura, have you two been spending some alone time? Kakashi asked, poking fun at his students. Or has Hinata joined in as well? It's not like that, Sakura said defensively while Naruto and Hinata turned bright red before Hinata fainted at the thought of what her sensei meant by alone time with Nar and Sakura. Is that usual? Haku asked her master while pointing at the passed out form of the Hyuga heiress with a trail of blood running down her nose. Is it? Zabuza asked Kakashi after taking a few bites from his meal. Yep, and maybe next time they have alone time, Haku can join in as well. Kakashi joked. Hinata, who had just recovered, was again knocked out at the images of alone time, only this time with Haku added in, "Shut up, you pervert." Sakura practically screamed. While Kakashi was dazed by the scream, Naruto snatched his Ika and tossed it to Sakura, who tore the hardback in half and then those halves into quarters with her bare hands. Same time in a women's only hot spring in Land of Fire. "I think someone just destroyed a copy of my limited edition hardback Paradise," a super pervert shouted, causing the women he was spying on to become aware of his peeping on them. The result being a bloody and broken-toed Sage that was barely conscious. "Back to the Land of Waves, are you feeling better now, Sakura-chan?" Nar asked. "Yes, thank you, Naruto she replied. Throughout this whole ordeal, Suna and Tsunami watched the scene while eating their food, not sure what to think of them. "What happened?" Hinata asked as she recovered. "Just Sakura destroying my precious limited edition Ika." Kakashi said dejectedly with a dark cloud around his head. But it lifted almost instantly. "I guess I'll just have to spy on you guys while you're alone. You can if you want, but you won't see us doing anything you'd find in one of those books," Nar said. At that moment, Inari walked into the room while glaring at the ninja. "Inari, where have you been?" Tsunami questioned in a motherly voice. Her son ignored her and continued to glare. "Why are you even trying?" he finally said after a few moments. "Nothing you guys do will make a difference. God's too powerful. If you keep trying, he less than greater than LL just kill you." Inari Tsunami shouted, growing angry at his disrespect. "These ninja are going to protect your grandfather until he finishes the bridge. They're going to help us through these hard times. Yeah, right. Gato will kill them before the end of the week. Listen, you little brat. No matter how many thugs that hires, they're no match for 2 Jonin. Heck, these 3 Genin and Haku could deal with them easily," Zabuza said angrily, enraged by the fact that the kid would think he would be taken down so easily. "But he's too powerful. He's made us live like this and we have nothing," Inari shouted at the ex-swordsman of the mist. "Be quiet," Haku said. Her voice is cold as the ice she uses. "You claim you have nothing, but you have a loving mother and grandfather, a roof over your head, food to eat, and clean water to drink. When I was your age, I was living. No, I was dying on the streets of a village in the Land of Water, an orphan with nothing. So stop complaining about how bad your life is when other people have had it worse. That may have been a bad experience, but we still have it worse," he shouted, deluding himself into believing no one's life was worse than him. "Open your eyes," Nar stated. "Your life isn't as good as some others, but at least you have a good life. Compared to mine and Haku's, you're living the dream life. Shut up. You don't know what it's like living in a place Godto controls. Sadness and sorrow starts playing. It can't be worse than my life," Naruto said sadly. "Ever since the day I was born, I was on my own because nearly everyone in the village saw me as a monster due to something that was out of my control. Every day I would receive glares of hate from the villagers, and at night they would beat me within an inch of death. The nightly beatings continued until I entered the academy at age 6. But I still received the glares. And on my birthdays, people would beat me up until dawn. They still do. And I never knew my parents. For a lot of my life, I thought that they abandoned me because they saw me as a monster as well. But even then, I was happy because I had Gigi, Chukio, Uji-san, and Ayame-nan. I thought that, if someone as hated as me can get friends, then I would be able to forget about the hate and concentrate on my happiness. So, I tried everything I could to become acknowledged. I mostly pulled pranks on people. And for a time, I thought that worked, but then I realized it wasn't helping. So, when I graduated, I vowed to try and become the best ninja I could. And when I was assigned to Squad 7, I was happy because Sakura-chan, Hinata-chan, and Kakashi-sensei became my friends. And when we were assigned this mission, I was happy because I thought people would acknowledge me for it. But when I learned the reason for this mission, I was even more happy because I could help people in need. I know what it's like to be alone. And I hope no one ever has to be. Even if I have to take the hate of the entire world just to make a few people happy, I would. Sadness and sorrow stops. You're lying. There's no way anyone could have it that bad. Inari accused. That was more than Nar could take. Before anyone could blink, Nar held Inari up by his neck with his right hand cocked back to punch him. The small boy closed his eyes and braced himself for the punch, but it never came. Nar dropped him to the floor and turned away. People like you aren't even worth the effort, the Gentriki muttered before walking out of the house. Inari ran upstairs to his room in tears the moment Naruto closed the door. I'm sorry about Inari's actions, but he's been like that since God killed his father. Tsunami said. Don't worry about it. I'm sure Nar is upset, but he'll calm down. Sakura said reassuringly. Is it true? Was his childhood that bad? Tuna asked. Sadly, it was, Kakashi replied, his joking demeanor gone with his student out the door. What about yours? Tsunami asked while looking at Haku, who nodded in response. What happened? I come from the Yuki clan, which was known for having a bloodline ability to control ice, and the clan was only located in the land of water, she began. A few years ago, there was the genocide of anyone with a bloodline. So, members of my clan went into hiding. My mother was one of them. And when I awakened my bloodline, my father out of fear killed my mother before attempting to kill me. But because I had no control over my powers and my need to live was so great, my bloodline killed my father. After that, I traveled to the nearest village. It was winter when Zabuza-sama found and saved me. If he hadn't, I wouldn't be here. So, you're her adoptive father? Tsunami asked Zabuza. I guess you could put it that way, he answered. After that, no one talked as they finished their food. Meanwhile, in the forest, Naruto was lying down on the very top of a tree while looking up at the stars. Below him, he had hundreds of clones work on the leaf-cutting exercise. He knew from experience that it would only be a week or so until he completed it. Other than the occasional groan of annoyance from his clones, the night air was completely silent. As he was staring at the stars, he began to reminisce about his friends in the future. How Kakashi and Guy had died taking down 3 of Toba's Jinchuriki paths and the rest of the Konoha 11 except Sakura and Hinata with Sai helped destroy one of the others before Sasaki killed them. In his rage about the loss of his friends, Naruto blindly attacked Sasaki, who used Susanna to guard against his attacks. Eventually, Sasaki used Chidori to break Naruto's leg, and while he was down, used Chidori to pierce his chest, but he got close enough for Nar to use Renin on the last Uchiha's heart. The last thing he saw before Sasaki died was his eternal Mangekyo sharing an eyes. Maybe Sasaki won't reawaken his sharing because he's not on this mission. Nar thought, if that's the case, maybe Orochimaru won't take an interest in him. But if he doesn't, he puts the curse seal on Sasaki again. I'll have to kill him. Nar _ 2 people shouted below. Nar looked down to see Sakura and Hinata walk into the clearing filled with clones. He jumped off the branch he was on and landed on the ground below. Hey, Sakura-kun, Hinata-chan, the blonde said happily. What do you guys want? As you can see, I'm in the middle of training. We were just wondering if you were still upset about what Inari said earlier, Sakura said. Oh, that I'm fine, but Inari just got a little annoying, the blonde replied. So, what's the plan? Because tomorrow the bridge will be finished. Hinata asked. You guys go to the bridge and I'll stay here to look after Tsunami and Inari after I deal with the thugs. I'll go to the bridge. We know that already. Hinata meant we were wondering how we were going to get Zabuza and Haku into Konoha and then get word to the rebellion. Sakura said, I guess we less than greater than LL just take Zabuza into Konoha and then talk to Gigi. I'm sure Zabuza must know where one of the bases are, so he should be able to set up a meeting point or something. Guess we'll go to bed. Are you coming? Sakura asked. No, I'm going to stay out here a train for a bit longer, Nar replied. We less than greater than LLCU. At the bridge tomorrow, Hinata said as she and the Pinkett turned and left. Nar grabbed a leaf from the nearest tree and started focusing chakra. Next afternoon, Nar awoke to find himself in his bed at Suna's house. And surprisingly, Haku was sitting in a chair on the other side of the room reading a book about medicine. Good, you're awake, she said, but her eyes never left the book. I took care of a couple of samurai that were sent to kidnap Tsunami, and the others have already gone to the bridge. I found you this morning asleep in a clearing in the forest and volunteered to look after you. How long have I been asleep? Nar asked. They left 3 hours ago and the samurai showed up half an hour ago, she replied. I wouldn't worry about it though. Inari's gone to the village to recruit help. Okay, Nar said before getting out of bed and opened the window. What are you doing? Haku asked. I'm going to the bridge. He replied simply. I just told you. You don't have to. Sorry, but I ain't going to just sit out this fight. By the time you get there, the fight will be over. Well, I can still attempt to be there, otherwise I'll feel like I abandoned my friends, he said before jumping out of the window and started running as fast as he could towards the bridge. Haku quickly followed and easily kept up with him. Damn, I forgot how fast she is, Nar thought. Here, grab my hand, Haku said while offering her right hand. Naruto grabbed it and then Haku literally started dragging him towards the bridge. As fast as she could. The whole time his face was scraping against the floor. When they arrived, they appeared at the site of Zabuza and Squad 7 easily dispatching God's thugs while the underscore was cowering in fear. You didn't have to drag my face on the floor the entire time, you know, Nar said, annoyed. His face was covered in small cuts which were healing quickly. Sorry, but it seemed the quickest way to get here, she replied. You know, you can let go of my hand now. Sorry, he blurted out while letting go of her hand like it was hot coal. Once he had Haku started going through one-handed hand seal's secret jutsu, 1,000 needles of death, Haku said. 1,000 needles made of water surrounded the small army of hired mercenaries before all of the needles flew at them at high speed. None of the blows were fatal, but they did break the bones in all of their arms and legs. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Nar shouted, and 100 clones of the gentry appeared. All of them drew kana and charged at the defenseless men. Nar quickly killed all of them before turning to God. His eyes void of emotion. He took one step forward and the gangster started making offers. Wait, I can give you money or power or land or women, anything you want. Just don't kill me, he said. Well, there's one thing, the blonde said, causing everyone except Sakura and Hinata on the bridge to be shocked at him accepting. What is it you want? The gangster asked. To answer his question, Naruto threw a kunai at him that stabbed his left lung. Gato looked down at the kunai covered in his blood and realized there was something on the handle. Boom. Nar said the resulting explosion sent pieces of body everywhere. Nar turned to look at the shocked faces of everyone. You didn't seriously think I'd let that guy live to you? Not for a second, Naruto. Sakura and Hinata said before both of them walked up to him and both of them kissed him. Anyway, let's clean up this mess, Kakashi said while pointing to the dead bodies. And then we can finish the bridge. Of course, Kakashi-sensei. Nar said before the clones he still hadn't dispelled started grabbing the bodies and throwing them over the side of the bridge, but had one of them go tell the village that God would no longer be a problem. As he was doing this, Zabuza, Haku, and Kakashi used water jutsu to wash the blood away while Hinata and Sakura started to help Suna and his workers on the bridge. 6 hours later, the bridge was finished before the end of the day, and in honor of the ninja that helped them, they named it the Great Naruto Bridge. Squad 7 with Zabuza and Haku were now walking through Konoha towards the Hokage Tower to talk with Hiruzen. After explaining the situation to the guards, Zabuza was temporarily allowed inside Konoha. And unless the Hokage said otherwise, he was to be killed on sight the next day. "Hey Gigi, we completed the mission," Nar exclaimed as he entered the room. "Nice to see you back, Naruto-kun," the old man said. His old eyes then turned to the EXS swordsman. "You must be Zabuza, Mochi." "Yes, Lord Hokage," he said respectfully. "Kakashi sent me a message about why you're here and I must ask. Who is your leader and is it possible for them to come here for a discussion?" "My leader is a woman named Maid Terumi and I can send a message to her directly and have a reply in a day or so," Zabuza replied. "Well, you better go send it soon. I'll have someone show you where the aviary is," Hizen said with a chuckle before tossing a scroll at the eyebrowless man. "Should anyone ask why you or your apprentices here, show that to them." "Thank you, Lord Hokage," he said before leaving the room with Haku. "The pay for the mission and capture of the Demon Brothers has been directly to your bank accounts," the Hokage said. "All of you can have the rest of the week off." "Thank you, Lord Hokage," they said in unison before leaving. Once they were outside of the room, Kakashi led them to Ikyaku Ramen for a reward meal. It had been 3 days since the wave mission was complete, and Zabuza sent word to his leader about a meeting with the Hokage. The reply had returned the same day, albeit a few hours later, saying that she would arrive in 2 days with 2 bodyguards. When she did arrive, she and her bodyguards were escorted to their hotels and told they had an hour before the negotiations started. While all this was happening, the village elders had found out that Murumi was coming for the negotiations and immediately started scheming. They knew that with Konoha's help, she would win the bloodline war. And they could use that to force Kiri into an alliance, or rather servitude, to Konoha. So instead of having a private talk with her, they forced Hiruzen to make it a meeting with the civilian council and Shinobi clan heads present. To make sure Hiruzen had no time to prepare a counter, they made the meeting as soon as possible. Just an hour after she arrived, they claimed that while they were talking, people were losing their lives, and the sooner the better. An hour after the rebels arrived, Mei was sitting in front of the Hokage, the village elders, the civilian council, and the clan heads with Haku sitting on her right. She had changed out of her battle uniform and into a blue dress, the one she wears in canon. And Haku was wearing a pink kimono again, the same from canon. For some reason, only Haku was allowed with her. The elders had insisted that her 2 bodyguards and Zabuza wait outside. She had just finished explaining everything about the war from how it started to the most recent battles. The civilians were clearly shocked that the current Mizukage was the gentry of the Sandy and were even more shocked that the rebellion leader had fought against him 2 times in the past. "What do you want from us?" a civilian councilman asked. "Supplies such as weapons and rations as well as shinobi to aid in the battles," Mei stated calmly. "How are you going to repay Konoha for all this?" a civilian woman with pink hair asked. "I was going to pay Konoha for its services as well as compensation for the shinobi that will die. I was also hoping that we could start trading exports and imports," she said almost desperately. She could see that they still needed a bit of convincing, so she had to use her last resort. I will also give Konoha the 3 tails. Chirumi-sama Haku gasped in shock, her eyes wide. If they won the war and gave up the 3 tails, then Kiri would become the second weakest of the 5 great ninja villages in terms of military strength unless Konoha would agree to protect it. Are you sure about that? Shikaku Nar asked. If you give up one of Kir's tailed beasts, you'll lose a lot of military strength. As long as it helps finish the war, I'll give up anything, she said adamantly. Hai was about to accept her offer then and there. But as usual, Danzo got in his way. Before we agree to your terms, I would like to point out that if we were to engage in your war, we would lose a considerable amount of shinobi, thus making the land of fire more vulnerable, the war hawk said. I was informed that the Terumi clan was known in the land of water for their use of the lava and boil keen. Is this correct? Yes, but because of the genocide, I'm the last of my clan, she answered. Though on the inside, she was not liking where this was going. What about you? Danzo asked, turning his attention to Haku. I read Kakashi Hitaki's report on Squad 7's most recent mission. In the report, he claimed you were the last surviving member of the Yuki clan, which was known for the Ice Kake Genk. Is this true? I'm the last known surviving Yuki, but there might be others in hiding, but it's doubtful, the young ice user said. Well, then I see one solution to this matter of power. Once the war is over, both of you will take up permanent resident in Konoha and be placed under the Clan Restoration Act, the Warhawk said, eager to get 3 Kekai Genk. The clan head's eyes widened before narrowing in anger. While the Hokage had already figured out what his old rival was up to. What is the Clan Restoration Act? Haku asked. But she had an idea already. It was a law made by the first Hokage Hashiyama-sensei. Hiruzen explained. It was to be used if a clan became near extinct or a new clan was being established. If there are only 5 or less members of a clan, then the men would be able to take on multiple wives whereas the women are turned into breeding stock. It's an abomination. Some Anuka muttered. I agree with you, Suman, which is why I refuse to use it on Terumi-san or Haku-chan. You can't do that, however, Hokage-sama, Danzo said. There has to be a vote. All those in favor of applying the law to Terumi-san and Yuki-sanning, Mei thought as she watched the village elders and every member of the civilian council raise their hands. The vote was won by 2 votes. I'm afraid this is out of my hands, the third said sadly. You can choose to refuse the CRA, but if you do, Konoha will not aid you in your war. What do I do? Mei thought, her thoughts racing through her mind. If I accept, I'll win the war, but I'll be turned into breeding stock, and if I refuse, I'll almost certainly lose the war. And what about Haku-chan? She's too young to go through something like this. Chirumi-sama Haku said gently, breaking the future Mizukage out of her thoughts. Don't worry about me. Just do what you think is right. I accept your terms, she said after a few minutes of thinking. We less than greater than LL send a convoy of supplies immediately and start assembling shinobi to fight. His said, unfortunately, the Chunin exams are starting next week and with the amount of foreign ninja here, it is impossible to call it off. Though we will not be able to send our shinobi until after the exams. Thank you for the help, Lord Hokage, Mei said happily. But on the inside she was defeated. Meanwhile across Konoha, hey Gara, Nar shouted as he ran towards the gentry and his siblings. The Suna team stopped in their tracks and the redhead turned to glare at the blonde. How do you know who I am? He asked coldly. I know everything about you, the Konoha. Genin said happily. Conqueror and Tari less than greater than, eyes narrowed sharply while Gar seemed indifferent. That's why I want to be your friend. What did you say? Gar asked shocked. I said I want to be your friend. Why would you want to be my friend? You know nothing about me. I know that your father had a demon sealed inside you when you were born and your mom lost her life during the sealing. I know how nearly everyone in your village was scared of you. I know that your father kept your siblings away from you and your uncle tried to kill you in a suicide bombing. I know that since then you've felt alone and you've been trying to prove your existence by killing. But you don't have to anymore. If you'll let me, I'll be your friend. How does that guy know about Gar? Tamari thought. And why does he want to be his friend? There has to be something about this guy that doesn't make him afraid of Gar. This idiot's going to get killed if he continues to talk to Gar like that. Conqueror thought. Mother, why isn't he afraid like the others? Gar asked his demon. Haha, it looks like old QB got sealed inside a child. The Tanuki laughed. So Gar, are we going to be friends? Nar asked unsure. The Sand siblings had been quiet for a few minutes, and there had been an awkward silence. I'd like that, the redhead replied while smirking, much to the surprise of his brother and sister. But first, what's your name? My name's Naruto Uzumaki, he said while grinning. I hope we meet again in the Chunin exams, the redhead replied before walking away with his siblings following. Goodbye, Uzumaki. See ya, Nar said before walking off in the opposite direction. This is going to be easy. Nar said out loud as he walked with Sakura and Hinata to the first stage of the Chunin exams. They already knew there would be a crowd on the second floor due to a genjutsu. So they took the long way round to avoid the crowd. The detour had only taken a few minutes longer, but they were now entering the testing room. They were immediately greeted by the cold glares from most of the other participants, but they ignored them and walked into the room. I'm surprised to see you here, Billboard Brow, a certain Yamanaka Iris said as she walked towards Team 7. I could say the same to you, Ino Pig. Soccer countered. Whatever. Did you see Sasuke on your way here? Ino asked. No, but why would you be interested in that jerk? The Pinkett asked, surprising the female blonde. Did something happen between you and Sasaki? No, I just lost interest with someone who ignores me and treats me coldly, Sakura explained. Besides, I've got a boyfriend now. Who? Ino asked. Narun, of course, she said before pecking Nar on the lips to prove it. The Gentriki blushed bright red. How could you? The Yamanaka demanded rather than asked. She was clearly angry. What are you talking about, pig? Sakura asked. You know Hinata has feeling for Nar and you just stole Naruto from her. She accused. Actually me and Sakura-san are sharing Narukan. Hinata stated while her face lit up like a Christmas tree. Ino less than greater than S mind immediately started going through different scenarios and she started staring off into space with a flushed face and blood leaking from her nose. She didn't mean like that, you idiot. Sakura shouted, snapping Ino out of her dirty thoughts. We're both going out with him, but we're not having hang on. I can understand Hinata going out with Naruto, but why you Sakura? Well, I knew I wouldn't get to see Sasuke because we're on different teams, so I thought I'd give Nar a chance. She lied smoothly. Kakashi-sensei explained that Naruto was likely going to be placed under the CRA and he'd need a minimum of 4 wives. Hinata was already going out with Naruto at the time, but when he asked me, I said yes. It turned out to be the best decision I ever made because Naruto is stronger than Sasaki. But unlike him, Naruto actually loves me and cares for me. And I get it. Now you're starting to sound like a romance novel, Ino said, cutting her rival off. No offense, Nar, but how could you get stronger than Sasaki in little over a month? Sorry, Ino, but I can't tell you that. In front of the competition, Naruto said while gesturing to the other genin. At that moment, teammate walked through the door and into the room. Ino was tempted to throw herself at Sasaki, but one thing stopped her, and that was Ka's smell. Hey, looks like we all made it to the Chunin exams. Kiba stated as he walked towards them with his teammates following, and Shikamaru and Choji walked over as well. I was wondering where you two were, Naruto said while gesturing to the male members of Team 10. We thought Ino and Sakura were going to start arguing, so we were trying to stay away, Shikamaru explained while Choji opened a bag of potato chips and started munching away. Hey, you guys should keep it down, a silver-haired ninja said as approached the rookies. Hi, my name's Kabuto Yukushi. That bastard, Nar shouted in his mind upon seeing the man who defiled the dead bodies of his fellow Jinchuriki and countless others. I'll have to wait until the Forest of Death or the invasion and then he's a dead man. You got any intel on the other participants? Sasaki asked in his musings. Naruto had missed Kabuto's introduction. Yes, right here, the silver-haired boy said while presenting a stack of orange cards. I want info on Rock Lee and Naruto Uzumaki. The last loyal Uchiha said, you know their name. That's no fun. The glasses-wearing ninja wind. In a matter of seconds, he had 2 cards with the information present. Let's see. Rock Lee has. Hang on, Sakura suddenly said, stopping Kabuto. You shouldn't be spreading info about ninja from your own village so carelessly. If you talk about it here, then the other participants will know their skills and use it against them during the exam. She's right, Shikamaru agreed. Kabuto, I think you should put those cards away. If you insist, he said before pocketing the cards. At that moment, Nar noticed the amount of glares they were receiving from the other genin. Hey, what the hell are you looking at? He shouted at them. Most of them turned their glares to Naruto, but one team took a more direct approach to show their dislike of the blonde. The only 3 ninja from Odo jumped out of the crowd and prepared to attack the Jinchuri. The leader extended his right hand forward to punch Naruto, who noted he was the one with the melody arm. However, the fist stopped centimeters in front of his face because Gar had used his sand to quickly subdue them. If you value your lives, you won't attack my friend again. Gar threatened coldly while making his sand constrict around the genin to prove a point. Hey, you sound and sand ninja better stop fighting or you'll fail the first stage before it even begins. A rough voice stated as a large man entered the room, followed by 24 Chunin. I'm sorry, I just got a little excited, Do said as the sand returned to Gar. Just make sure it doesn't happen again, the large man said. Menacingly. I'm Ibiki Morino, your worst nightmare. Somewhere someone screamed, but it was probably an old toad sage that decided to take a quick peek in a hot ring, but got caught and beaten worse than Naruto had as a child. An hour later, Team 7 had passed the first exam, easily having already experienced it once. They were now waiting for Ibiki to finish his explanation of what is expected from Shunin when a blob crashed through a window. The blob quickly unfolded itself to make a banner and, revealing Anko Midarashi. All right, you maggots. I'm Anko Midarashi and I'll be your proctor for the second stage of the Chunin exams, she shouted in a very Narutoic fashion. You're early, Ibiki stated, causing Anko to face fault. As she recovered, she scanned the watching genin and decided to try to get payback. How many are there? I can't believe you would let all these guys pass. You must be going soft. Or it could be a stronger crop of candidates this year, the integrator replied. It doesn't matter. By the end of my test, less than half will be eliminated, she said sinisterly. This is going to be fun. All right, maggots, meet me at Training Ground 44 in 1 hour. An hour later, and all the teams were waiting in a large clearing just outside Training Ground 44. Most of the genin stared at the forest beyond the electrical gate in fear, whereas others had a glint in their eyes, but only one was different. "This is Training Ground 44, Anko announced. "It's also known as the Forest of Death." "It doesn't look so bad," Naruto said, having experienced worse in his childhood. A kunai flew past him and grazed his cheek. A small drop of blood trickled down his cheek. "It's punks like you that are usually the first to die," Anko stated as she appeared behind the gentry with a canny to his neck. She seductively licked the drop of blood from his cheek, causing most of the males in the vicinity to glare with jealousy or stare in fear. "Your blood is among the best I've ever tried. I hope you don't die in there. Blood tastes better when it's fresh." "What are you, crazy?" Nar practically screamed at her. "Just a little," she replied with a bloodthirsty grin. Without looking, Anko pulled out a kunai and prepared to stab the kusen that appeared behind the snake summoner with her tongue wrapped around a canny. "I was just returning your kunai," the grass nin said, still with her freakishly long tongue sticking out. "Thanks, but don't sneak up on me again unless you have a death wish," Anko said, cheerfully, freaking out most of the genin. She took the kunai from the foreign ninja, who stepped back immediately. The ex-pupil of Orochimaru then returned her attention to the blonde gentry. "You have something to say?" "Yeah, when can we start the second stage?" Naro asked, not intimidated. "Well, since you asked so nicely," Anko said. She took the kunai away from his neck and returned it to her weapons pouch before starting her explanation of the second stage. After she was finished, waivers were handed out amongst the genin that they had to sign in order to take the exam. The teams then exchanged the waivers for a Heaven-Earth scroll and told which gate to go to. At exactly 3:00 p.m., the gates opened and the teams entered the Forest of Death, eager to start the second stage. 2 hours into the second stage, Sakura and Hinata were currently searching the forest for teammate. Why? Because they knew Orochimaru would try to plant the curse seal on Sasaki soon, and they had to stop that from happening at all costs. Hinata had her Bakugan activated and was looking out for the Uchiha, while Naruto and Sakura tried to remember where the battle between the genin and Sannin would take place. "Sasake's up ahead," Hinata reported as soon as Sasaki came into range of her Bakugan. "He's fighting Orochimaru with Ka and Akamaru, but Shino seems injured." "What's wrong?" Sakura asked. "I think he has a broken leg." "What's the plan?" Nar asked his girlfriends. "Me and Hinata will get Shino out of there while you help Dogboy and Sasaki," Sakura said. At that moment, they landed on a tree just out of view from where the battle was taking place. Sakura and Hinata immediately leapt down to get Shino, while Naruto watched the battle between Orochimaru and Sasaki and Ka. He was surprised to see that Sasaki wasn't using any of his fire-style enjutsu, but was instead distracting the snake with genjutsu, while Ka with Akamaru tried to attack using his clan's jutsu. The strategy seemed fairly efficient because while Orochimaru was distracted dispelling the genjutsu, Ka and his dog could land a few hits, but Naruto knew from experience that it would require more than that to kill the traitor. "KBA move," Sasaki shouted suddenly. The Inuzuka and his dog leapt away, but Orochimaru ignored them and turned towards Sasaki while grinning. "So, you want to fight me one-on-one?" He, the near immortal, asked. Sasaki ignored him and glared at him, his Sharingan active with one tomo in one eye and two in the other. "You'll never be able to beat me by yourself, Sasaki _ I've already won," the Uchiha replied. But unlike usual, he didn't sound cocky or arrogant. The forest surrounding Orochimaru started to melt, revealing a wall of fire. Everywhere he looked, he could only see fire. But he could also see something moving around in the raging inferno. That's when he saw the thing that terrified him the most. Out of the fire stepped all 9 of the tailed beasts. He immediately thought he was trapped in a genjutsu and started trying to break it, but found he couldn't. He flared his chakra, bit his lip till it bled, and broke one of his fingers, but nothing would cause it to break. There's no way he could have actually sent me to hell with the tailed beasts, Orochimaru thought. But he was slowly starting to panic because nothing he did would break the genjutsu he thought he was in. This can't be a genjutsu or it would have broken by now. Is this why he told his teammate to leave so he wouldn't be caught in the jutsu? But where did he get this jutsu? Is it a secret from the Uchiha clan's history? Finally, something to kill, the Yandi shouted, breaking the traitor out of his thoughts just in time to see the massive fist coming towards him. Just as the fist made contact, there was an explosion. Giant Renin, Naruto shouted as he and a clone smashed the attack into Orochimaru's head from above. The resulting explosion sent Orochimaru less than greater than S limp body towards the ground at incredible speed with large chunks of wood following down, burying the Sannin under a ton of timber. Naruto's clone disappeared in a puff of smoke while the real blonde clung onto the branch he had just destroyed. The attack had taken almost all of his chakra to use, and the QB was still sleeping in the seal, so he wasn't going to be able to use jutsu for a few hours. The blonde managed to haul himself onto the branch and then collapsed onto one knee, so he was kneeling. He turned his head slightly to see Sasaki was in the same boat as him. The Uchiha had also collapsed due to chakra exhaustion. "Hey, Nar, are you alright?" Ka asked as he landed next to him. "I'm fine. I just used too much chakra," the Jinchuriki replied between gasps for air. "Shouldn't you be helping your teammate?" "Well, Sakura and Hinata are healing Shino less than greater than S leg." The Inuzuka replied, "I meant Sasaki. He less than greater than LL be fine. He just used too much chakra." Kurenai-sensei said that he developed a technique that uses his sharing to hypnotize his opponent and make them more susceptible to genjutsu. Then he uses an A- rank variation of the Hell Viewing Jutsu to make his opponent experience a vision SAS controls. But sensei also said that it takes a lot out of him, so she's forbidden him from using it except in emergencies. "Guess we're lucky then," Nar said as he finally caught his breath. At that moment, Orochimaru's head and extended neck burst out of the wooden tomb and stretched towards the exhausted Uchiha. Sasaki couldn't move because he was exhausted, so he couldn't dodge the rapidly approaching attack. The snake Sannin sunk his fangs into the boy's neck, and as he pulled away he smiled manically as the Uchiha started clutching his neck in agony as it felt like he had just been injected with acid. "You less than greater than LL seek me out soon enough, but first you have to beat the 3 sound ninja that work for me," Orochimaru said while his head returned to his body. Soon enough, he was gone. But Sasake's screams of pain continued to echo through the forest until he eventually fell unconscious. What the hell did that freak do to him? Ha asked out loud, but Nar ignored him. Damn it, that bastard Orochimaru managed to plant the curse seal on him. Nar thought, it was all for nothing. Narune. Are you alright? Hinata asked urgently as she and Sakura approached. I'm fine. I just used too much chakra. The blonde replied. You baka. Sakura shouted at him angrily while lightly hitting him on the back of his head. Don't scare us next time. Sorry, Sakura-chan, he said while smiling sheepishly. I'll just leave, Ka said awkwardly before jumping over to Sasaki where Shino was already trying to move him. What do we do? Hinata asked as they watched teammate leave. They should be able to handle the sound ninja that go after Sasaki. Sakura said while briefly remembering what happened when she had to face them. We should go after Kabuto and his team. We won't have to if we follow teammate. Nar replied. Remember Kabuto showed up just before I opened a scroll and helped us get to the tower. Besides, With the amount of chakra I have left, we wouldn't stand a chance against him and his team. So, we follow Team 8, but how will we get a Heaven Scroll? Hinata asked. I think we could get one off of the Odo team or the AIM team, Sakura answered. Guess we should start following them, Nar said before standing up on shaking legs. He was about to go after teammate, but Hinata and Sakura stopped him. Naruto-kun, you need to rest, Sakura said in her nurse voice. But we might not be able to find them later, the blonde complained. I can see nearly the whole forest with my Bakugan, so we don't have to worry about losing them, Hinata said reassuringly. Fine, Naruto grumbled before sitting back down. We less than greater than LL rest for an hour or so, then we can go after them. Besides, the Odo team won't encounter them until morning. Sakura said logically. Whatever you say, Sakura-chan. Meanwhile, in the Hogue's office, do you know why you were summoned here? Hi, asked. We were told it was to discuss our future here in Konoha. Hokage-sama Mei answered. To be more specific, it's less than greater than about your participation in the CRA. His said, the council has already sent word to the Daimyo, so there's no way for you to get out of it. However, I managed to find a loophole. The act states that those placed under the CRA must produce children with members of shinobi clans. However, I know for a fact none of the clans will accept the CRA, so both of you would be forced to marry civilians. However, there are also 2 other ninja that will be placed under the CRA. And fortunately, both are male. Sasaki is the last of the Uchiha clan and Naruto is the last of the Uzumaki clan. Both of them are 12 years old. So that gives you both 4 years to try to get to know whichever one you choose. They are both in the second stage of the Chunin exams right now. So you'll be able to meet them at the end of the week, but I believe Haku has already met Naruto. He's the one who convinced Zabuza-sama to come to Konoha. The ice user replied. Hokage-sama, I would like to choose my husband now. Mei stated, I would like to marry Uzuaki-sama. Are you sure you want to choose Naruto? You haven't even met him yet. I'm sure. The Trumi clan owes the Uzumaki clan a lot, and I will willingly marry Uzuaki-sama to settle this department. Alright, then I'll sort out the paperwork. Haku, would you also like to choose your husband now, or would you prefer to meet them first? I would like to meet them first. Hokage-sama. She replied, very well, Haku, you can meet both of them when the second stage finishes, and Mei you can meet Naruto at the same time. Thank you, Lord Hokage, they both said before exiting the room. Tam 7 walked through the entrance to the tower in the exact center of the Forest of Death. They had stalked Team 8 for the past few days. From watching them take care of Team Dosu to meeting Kabuto and dealing with the Rain Ninja, they already knew what to do. So they took out a Heaven and an Earth scroll and opened them on the floor before quickly backing away. In a large plume of smoke, Iruka appeared smiling proudly at the genin. Congratulations. You 3 have passed the second stage of the Chunin exams, he declared happily while adding in his mind. With only seconds to spare. After the greetings were over, the Chunin instructor led his former students to the main room. The same teams as last time were here with. The only difference being that Zaku's arms weren't broken this time. Things went the same as the first time. The Hokage gave a speech. They were told they had to participate in semifinals before the third exam. Kabuto forfeited and the first match was Sasaki vs Yoroi. The fight was the same as before with Sasaki finishing his opponent with Lion's Barrage. The board then went through names again before stopping on Choji and Masumi. The fight was short and quick. Masumi tried to strangle the Akamaiki by wrapping his body around the boy. However, Choji simply used the human boulder jutsu and flattened him. The next match was between Ka with Akamaru and Neji. The fight consisted of them both using their clan styles of ninjutsu and trying to overpower the other. Nyakugan to block or evade the Inuzuka's attacks and then counter. The following match pitted Zaku against Shikamaru. However, the Nar gave up saying he knew he couldn't beat the Oto ninja. Next were Shino and Do. The match lasted a while. But Do eventually won by using his melody arm to disorient the Ibarame and his insects before they could sap away all his chakra. Sakura was against Ino like last time, but unlike last time, she didn't fall for Ino's trick. She made sure to stay far away from the blonde's cut hair and then delivered a punch to her face, knocking the Yamanaka out cold. Hinata was then faced against Konquo. For most of the match, she was winning, but she was hit by one of Crow's poison needles. She continued to fight, but eventually the poison caused her to collapse. However, Conqueror gave her the antidote after he was declared the winner. Gar and Lee were facing each other next, and the fight went the same as before, except that Gar didn't crush Lee's arm or leg. He simply kept him immobile until Lee conceded defeat. This left his siblings and sensei shocked that he would simply let such a strong opponent walk away. Tamari was forced to shake of her shock at her brother's actions when she was called to fight Tenten. The match was the same as the first time, with Tamari easily overpowering the weapon specialist. The final match was between Naruto and Kin. The Odoko Kunoichi tried to use her son and genjutsu to win, but Naruto defeated her by creating an army of shadow clones. After he was declared the winner, the Hokage gave another speech and explained how the third stage would work. They were then given numbers to determine who their opponents would be. The matches were between Naruto and Neji, Gar and Zaku, Tamari and Sakura, Kankuro and Dosu, and finally Sasaki and Choji. They were given a month to prepare, and then most of the genin left with their sensei, but the Hokage had asked Naruto to stay behind. "What do you want, old man?" the blonde asked curiously. "I have some important matters to discuss with you about your future," he said with a smile on his face. But Naruto could have sworn he could detect a perverse undertone in the Hoga's voice. At the meeting discussing Konoha aiding Terumi-san in the war in Kiri, it was revealed her and Haku are the last of their clans. Danzo managed to force them to move to Konoha and they are both being placed under the CRA. I'll explain the details later, but I managed to find a loophole, but it would mean that they'd have to marry you or Sasaki. Chirumi-san wants you to marry her and Haku wants to meet Sasaki first. But the crucial thing I want you to understand is that if Sasaki and you refuse to take either of them as wives, then they'll be used as breeding stock. Don't worry, old man. I'll happily accept Mikhan as my wife and Haku as well if Sasaki says no. I also want you to remember something very important. The CRA states you have to have a minimum of 4 wives. However, it doesn't say what the maximum is. Understand? He's worse than pervy sage. Nar thought with a sweat drop at his grandfather figure. I understand. Good cause. You're living every man's dream, so take advantage of it. 2 hours later at Training Ground 3. Hey Kakashi-sensei, can you train me for the final stage of the Tunin exams? Nar asked. Sorry, Nar, but I'm training Sakura. If you want, I can find a replacement. Nah, I'll just find someone myself, the blonde said before walking away. He walked around for a while trying to find someone who could train him. He knew he could just go find Jiraiya at the hot springs, but he didn't feel like getting pushed over a cliff just yet. As he was walking, he spotted Zabuza walking around with someone he remembered as Chojiro. Hey, Zabuza, Nar shouted as he ran up to the swordsman. What do you want, brat? He asked. Zabuza, see, you shouldn't talk to Mei-sama's future husband like that, the younger Kiernan said. Grow some backbone, Chua stated before returning his attention to the gentry. So, what do you want? I was wondering if you could train me for the exams. Nar asked, his eyes filled with hope. No, he stated bluntly. Why not, Zabuza, Senpai? You've got nothing else to do. The glasses-wearing ninja said, I will never teach that brat as long as he wears that orange jumpsuit. Until he dresses like a shinobi, I won't teach him as a shinobi. So, if I wear something else, you'll teach me. Yes. Meet me back here in an hour, Naruto said before running off to find the nearest clothing store. Meanwhile, with Haku, the AYS of the Yuki clan walked through the hospital with the Hokage. She was going to meet her possible future husband. As she was walking, she was thinking about what she had heard about him. Sakura and Hinata had claimed that he was handsome, but he was as emotional as a cube of ice and equally as cold. While most council members said his emotional state was just a phase and she would be better off marrying Sasaki instead of Nar. However, Haku didn't believe in judging people from other people's opinions, which is why she was going to meet him so she could decide for herself. Would you like me to wait outside? Hai asked as they stood outside the room where he was resting. Yes, please, Hokage-sama, she replied. She opened the door and walked inside to see the Uchiha getting out of the bed. What do you want? He asked rudely. I'm from Kiri and I'm in the CRA like you and you're one of my choices as a husband, so I wanted to meet you before I made my decision. You're wasting my time. Why would I want a weakling like you as my wife? Sasaki asked coldly, surprising Haku. Konoha is the strongest of the 5 major villages, whereas Kiri is 4th. So why would I want someone from your nation, especially you? You're the last of your clan because the rest got wiped out, so that must mean your clan was weak. My clan was not weak, Haku stated angrily. And what about you? You're the only surviving member of the Uchiha clan, whereas all the other clans here are growing. The Uchiha must have been weaker than the rest of the clans in this village if they were wiped out. Shut up, Sasaki shouted. In an instant, he appeared in front of Haku and was about to punch her in the face, but she caught his fist. You were right. I was wasting my time on you, she said before letting go of his hand and walking out of the room. Nar was walking through the streets of Konoha after buying his new clothes which he kept in his bag. The shop had overcharged the already expensive clothes, but thanks to the mission fee and bonus he got from the wave mission, he was able to afford them. As he was walking, he noticed the Odo Genin talking in a nearby alleyway. He was going to ignore them but stopped when he heard one of them crying, specifically the girl, Kiniki. He went back and checked into the alleyway to see that Zaku and Do had left and Chin was crying into her hands behind a dumpster. Being the caring person he was, he walked slowly into the alleyway so as not to make her panic. She looked at him and as soon as she did, she glared at him with hate. What do you want? She asked angrily, but the tears continued to stream down her face. I just wanted to check that you were okay, Naruto replied, trying to be friendly. Do you need any help? Why would I need help from you? You're the cause of my problem. Me. What did I do? He asked confused. I was the only one on my team not get into the 3rd exam, and because of that, my leader is going to kill me, she said. I have until the end of this month, and then I'm going to die. Orochimaru is going to use her as one of his sacrifices for his summoning reanimation because of me. Naruto thought. He suddenly felt extremely guilty. I'm sorry, he said simply, but he caught her off guard. If I knew what would have happened to you, I would have given up. Don't lie. But it's the truth. Why? She asked, cutting him off. Why would you give up your chance of becoming Chunin to save me? We're not from the same village and I don't know you. You have no reason to. I've seen people die before, he stated while the faces of his deceased friends flashed through his mind. I know how it affects their relatives and their friends. You must have someone close to you, and if I let you die, that person would come after me for revenge. But then my village would protect me and then your village would retaliate until finally war breaks out and even more people die. It would become a never-ending cycle of hate and I'd do anything to prevent that happening. Hin was left speechless at his words. She didn't know how he knew something like that, but the way he said it made it seem like he'd experienced it already. And when she looked into his eyes, she realized that he held the pain of losing people precious to him. I guess I'll just leave, she said, her voice filled with sadness. She turned around and started to walk away. Wait, Nar said gently. She turned and looked at him expectantly. If your leader is going to kill you, why not leave, Odo? I've got 2 friends back there, and if I leave, they'll be devastated. They can't leave either. One of them is devoted to our leader, and the other is one of our leader 5 elite bodyguards. So, the only reason she's staying is because of her friends who are both connected to Orochimaru, Naruto thought, trying to figure out an answer. If Orochimaru dies, then Chin and her friends will be free. But that's easier said than done. I'm going to have to figure out a way to stop Orochimaru using the summoning reanimation, but I only have a month to get strong enough, and I'll only have one opportunity. Hey, can I? He started before he realized she had left while he was thinking. I guess I'll just have to get as strong as I can during the month and hope Cam is on my side. In a hotel. Mother, what should I do? Gar asked his literal inner demon. He'd been spying on the Uzumaki with an eye made of sand at Shukaku's request, and now he was growing concerned for his friend. Don't do anything. If QB thinks she's the strongest, then she and her gentry don't need our help, the tailed beast replied. A month had passed since the preliminaries, and now 9 of the 10 finalists stood in the arena. The only one missing was Nar, but no one had seen him, Zabuza, or Cho since the day the preliminaries ended. The spectators were talking amongst themselves, and some were making bets on who they thought would win. Within the crowd, 3 women were looking for a sign of their future husband, wondering where he was while the 4th one was in the arena. Where is he? Sakura thought. She was beginning to get nervous. After the first Chunin exam, Naruto had told her about his mishaps with Konohamaru in a stampede, but she doubted the same thing would happen now.